Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Lunenburg Board of Trust Fund Commissioners meeting. Today is Thursday, March 12th, 2026. It's 5 p.m. We're here at the Bellotta Meeting Room at Town Hall. If we could we open up with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over the Lunenburg Public Access channel on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page. You can find our agenda at lunenburgma.gov. Just search for Agenda Center and look for Trust Commission. This information will be loaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube after the meeting. Additionally, please be advised that the town of Lunenburg utilizes the Zoom platform as host for its hybrid and remote meetings, that the Zoom platform utilizes AI technology, known as AI Companion, to create audio transcripts of meetings to aid in the subsequent preparation of meeting minutes, and that AI Companion is activated immediately upon launching the Zoom application. You are hereby notified that this AI technology may capture audio prior to the start of the meeting and/or following the conclusion of the meeting. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt this virtual broadcast, unless it's otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for an in-person versus a virtual attendance. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, you use the link that is on the agenda. To join the public meeting, the link number is 766-316-7607. You could also use a telephone to be able to dial in. You dial the 800 number, 888-475-4499. You enter that webinar ID I just read, which is 766-316-7607. If you have not registered with Zoom, you will be asked for your name and an email address. Your participant ID is needed by just pressing the pound key. When asked, you can dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise the hand feature, which should be located on the bar below the screen. The agenda tonight lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent that is permitted by the open meeting law. Okay. So I'd be open to see if there's any public comment. I just noticed that there's no public here on Zoom. There's no public here in the building tonight. Is there any public comment from the commission?
I have no public comment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Richard. I have no public comment either. Announcement and communications from any trust representatives. We don't have any here at the moment. We obviously represent trustees for all the trusts at the moment, and we have no comment. Our scheduled meetings are every second and fourth Thursday. The last meeting I canceled because I wanted to have a communication with the attorney before coming here so we could bring some new information. We do not have any treasurer or finance director reports this evening. Basically, the last report that we received was in December of the total amount of interest overall for the town, based on all the town's invested funds with Bartholomew and Company. And I believe we went over that, as well as our last report that we received from Mylene, our treasurer, who's been fantastic, by the way, in helping us handle a lot of this. We have an overall increase from our beginning value to our ending value of about $3,000, and that would be in a quarter, on $87,000 worth of total funds. So that's not that bad. That's averaging about 10, 11%.
Yeah.
Yay. We like that. That's evenly distributed through the funds, whatever each fund has. That money gets distributed evenly in the interest. Just so folks are aware, some of the funds have parameters and some don't. I'm going to discuss some of that tonight with regard to the work that Richard and I have been doing here for the last 9 months, which has been laborious, arduous rather. But we've been getting it done so that we have some sort of organizational structure here. Okay, I'd like to go into new business. The select board presentation that we had on Tuesday, if you want to view it, you can go to YouTube, Facebook, and you could watch it there. It was pretty detailed. There were a number of questions. I think we've answered all the questions and the concerns. There were some matters with regard to the American Legion funds in particular, and I'm going to go over that tonight, because even though there may be one parameter in a fund as trustees, the whole thing has to read properly. And the law requires us to be fiduciary responsible, fiduciaries, which means that to the language of the donor's intent. And if that needs to be adjusted by law, we are required to make that change. The issue that arises with that is that any kind of outside investigation that has to be done is not handled by the attorney on retainer. So the attorney can file documentation with the Attorney General's Office of Public Charity to be able to engage in, cypre issues with public charities. He can utilize his retainer that the town has him on for if a particular fund has to go into probate court. That's under his retainer as well. If the language of it needs to be changed in the probate court, that's also part and inclusive of his retainer. What is not part and inclusive in his retainer is the investigations. That is by hourly wage, and it is done by each individual beneficiary group in trust. So the issue that was raised, that I raised, which I'm going to go over today, I'll also be giving a presentation on this particular item. This is the warrant article to request funds for cypre investigations. So with that, there comes some legal issues that we're bound by under Massachusetts general laws, in that the town took on the responsibility when they took the funds. And again, I'm going to restate this, that when the town takes a donation from somebody that's put into a trust and held by this commission, unless the donor has given provision for us to be able to use that money for the management of the fund. The only management that we really have is how the funds are invested, how the funds are given out, and what that oversight is. and engage in those communications with the accountant, the town accountant, and the town treasurer in those communications, that's where it goes for disbursement. So it's a second set of eyes to make sure that we did the right thing with what we ordered based on an application. In that, we cannot use the money that's in these funds to be able to do these investigations. If this was a personal trust, you know, like a revocable or irrevocable trust that somebody was an executor to, an executor would be able to use that money to be able to met out the money to the different beneficiaries in that personal trust. That if these people who gave this money would want to have the trust managed with the money that was put in it, there are groups that actually do that. Rollstone Bank does it. You would put it with them. They would have more or less like an executor, trustee, okay, who would basically oversee management issues, which is what we have here is a management issue. Okay? My wife's great aunt, Irene Price, has a agricultural fund in town of a substantial sum that's managed by a separate group. When the town accepts a trust, it becomes the manager financially and responsible for fixing and getting up to date, because sometimes trusts become outdated with their, with their intended use. But they can still be, rewritten to keep the donor's intent, but just to more modernize. So that's the town's responsibility. So when somebody donates money to the town through the Trust Fund Commission or places an account in trust, we can't use that money to be able to manage the trust. That was raised to me. The answer is no. I'll go over that today. No, you cannot. The town assumed the responsibility. The donor did not leave a provision for that management, and therefore the money is to go to only what the donor says. It's quite specific. That way there's no, oh, well, I paid myself and the commission here an extra $2,500 of hourly labor to be able to do these investigation work. That's what we would be able to do. And I don't think any of us here in the community at large thinks that that would be an appropriate task, even though we as trustees, for the argument of, you can manage. No, we cannot. We can make sure the donor's intent is upheld and that the money is used for what the intent is used for, not to manage the fund. And just as a reminder, and I like to remind this all the time, if you give a donation to the trust fund, you build a trust here, it's a tax write-off. If you give it to any individual group, like if you give a gift to the town, it is not a tax write-off. You cannot sit there and say, oh, I'm going to gift $3,000 for, new trash cans for the town. Well, you can't write that off because you gave that through the select board. But if you gave it here in trust, you could write that off. And we can solicit as well. And if anybody is interested in leaving anything in their will or anything like that, you can feel free to contact us, or you can feel free to contact Town Hall and find out how you would be able to do that. Again, like I said, so like if you wanted to donate money to plant flowers in the cemetery, you can't write that off because that's not a cash donation that they can give you a slip that says you gave a donation of this amount of money, but we can. We can give that slip. We have that authority. And we can ask you to open up trusts. No other board can do that. We have solicitation ability, and it does not violate the rules of ethics. So that's another, good avenue for people that, don't know what this board does and want to become a part of it. It's an opportunity for you to chit-chat with your neighbors and say, hey, listen, I don't know if you have a will or a trust, but, it would be nice. I know you want to leave some money for the town. you know, it would be good if you did it in this manner, do you know what I mean? Or had your executor do it. And again, you have to remember that I don't know what the parameters are on giving money through an executor as a donation out, what the costs are on that, but it might be included in a write-off on whoever the executor is to be able to have that freed and clear, you know what I mean, on filing taxes on the executor of a will or trust, I have no idea. I'm just speculating. But I just wanted to go over the warrant article real quick. The overall gist of requesting the money, which we did review this with you already, we reviewed it once again. I just want to give it a definitive purpose here. Okay, the purpose of this appropriation is to fund approximately 40 hours of professional legal investigation. Okay, we're asking for $14,252.39. That's the amount of money that's in one of the funds. So I wrote that in there when I wrote it, thinking that was the cost. After meeting with Adam, Adam said, no, we charge hourly, at our hourly rate to do investigations. I said, oh. So I kind of took that number and says, is that still a viable number? Without having to make a new amendment and us having to have another meeting and so forth. And I looked at that. And I said, okay, well, $14,000 will give us 40 hours worth of work, investigation work. And that work would obviously fall under, the town manager to be able to sit there and, have the lawyer's availability to do that, or at least to get that started. And even if we're only able to appropriate a little bit at a time, some of these funds, there's 5 of them. I'm anticipating the amount of hours and so on and so forth in this, not to exceed 40 hours, just from, I've been through all the paperwork that we have, all the public record documentation. I've been through every single paper. I sat for 3.5 hours in Myleen's office and went through all the documentation that the town has on file for the Trust Fund Commission. And some of the last distributions were with Miss Padula, Mary Padula, who died in 2015, who was actually the executive secretary for this town from 1953 to 1983. And then she went on to become the first Worcester Middlesex district. I forget what it was. I think it was a little divided there at one point, but she became a representative. But in any case, she kept some good notes, and I read through them. Yeah, she was pretty smart. I read a lot of typewriter written stuff on very thin rice paper. So I don't know if anybody remembers those days. Big black typewriter. So I read through them, and she highlighted some things. She had some concerns about some of the history, and she showed some of the history, and I got a good vast amount of the information, but getting a hold of the actual wills and trusts through probate would require some additional investigations that we think would be better suited for the attorney because of the changes that would have to be made. But, I mean, we'll go over that. I'm making a presentation tonight to the Finance Committee at 7 o'clock. With regard to this financial request from the town. So I have a scheduled hearing for that tonight. Let's see. I just want to continue with what I was reading. So that's for 40 hours of professional legal investigation, not my investigation, professional legal investigation, because he has to file it. Okay, and make a determination on whether or not it goes through the Attorney General's office or goes to probate court. But some of the information needs to be investigated. The purpose of the investigation is to determine, 1, donor intent, basically verify legal compliance, whether or not the documentation at present complies legal, and establish whether or not certain trust funds can still be administered under those existing terms. These are some determinations of what and how we have to do this. So many trust funds that we have missing donor declarations. Some of the situations are obsolete in purposes, such as like they reference poorhouses, or they reference beneficiary organizations that no longer exist, like the American Legion. And as trustees, we cannot lawfully distribute funds without knowing donor intent in its entirety, nor may we modernize nor may we alone modernize outdated restrictions without this investigation. Now, those obligations come under Chapter 206 of Mass General Laws, Chapter 203E as well. So, just to give you an idea, there'll be a presentation tonight at the Finance Committee. I encourage everybody to go look at it. But most of these funds are under 20 years old and valued under $75,000, which means that a lot of this may be able to be handled, obviously, most of it will be able to be handled, almost all of it, okay, under the lawyer's retainer, except for the investigation part, so that there is a clear legal parameter. I'll give you something that happened at the Select Board meeting. Well, it says here in the American Legion Fund, it says, must meet eligibility requirements for the American Legion. So I got the Constitution, and eligibility means honorably discharged. And, you know, there's a section in that Constitution. That's in the drive file. Okay? So it says honorably discharged. We've already addressed that because we knew that. We didn't need the American Legion's Constitution to tell us that. We already knew that as good people. So in that, the problem is that it still says American Legion Post 283 members, but it also says, or Lunenburg veterans. So the consensus is from town manager is that, well, we don't have to change any of the wording in that. That one's from 2013. That's going to require a court filing because it's less than 20 years old. So it's going to require court filing to change the language. So I'm getting a little pushback on that with regard to that. But what's not being understood here is that under 206 Section 16, under 203E Section 805, and under 203E Section 807, it clearly states that as trustees over these trusts, we must do three things: maintain accurate accounting and ensure lawful administration. It also says that we must act prudently, carefully, and consistently with the donor intent. And then it says here, which is the most important, to delegate specialized work only to qualified professionals. So that tells me that the town manager is not a qualified professional in handling this matter, that the lawyer is not an investigator. He's already told me that at my last meeting, that he has to hire outside investigators that do this kind of work, that, you know, this isn't something that he does. So that says that he is not a qualified professional, and any other people here in town who sit on a board or commission do not have the qualifications, the professional qualifications necessary. So we can all talk, because Richard and I talked, if you remember, we talked, well, why don't we just write the PC-15?
Right.
Why don't we just do it, right, and submit it?
Seems simple on the surface.
Absolutely. But then when you read into Mass General Laws, now you start getting into trouble. And I'm not getting into trouble. So just so folks know that the statutes are also make it very clear that the legal investigation is not an option. It's in the statute. It says it's not an option. It's required. So that puts us in a bind. It's required. We tell the town it's required, but the town at the select board meeting was saying, whoa, it says this, doesn't it? But it says that too, and then it does this, and it does that. We went back and forth like that for 20 minutes, right? And there were some admissions from my end of the reading of it, yeah, and then there were some admissions from them of what their interpretations was. And I'm reading this here as I do more research, and I go, imagine that. All of us unqualified people standing around a table trying to figure out what's right, when the one thing that we're asking for is to hire the qualified people to get the right answer, right, so that we don't have this problem anymore. And I think that's why they wrote this in the statute. Wouldn't you think? Yeah. So, that being said, I'm not qualified. Town manager is not qualified. Town attorney is not qualified. The select board and the finance committee are not qualified. This is statute. This is law. We are responsible for the enforcement of that, and that's what we're doing. This isn't a request. This is compliance, and without compliance, can actually get us under audit by the Attorney General of Public Charities if any more money is distributed from these funds. Okay? Without the legal investigation, all of us, or our future trustees here, risk misapplication of these restricted charitable assets. The investment decisions, right, that are made with these funds at some point in time may not align with the donor's restrictions, right? Like the sidewalk fund says, you can't draw more than $200. I have that, I got that paperwork in this, like, one box that Mylene had in the office. That the town manager and I and Mylene went through real quickly one day. I mean, you know, there's only so many times, you know, that the employees in town have in the day to go through this stuff. So it's up to us to volunteer to take that time, you know? So I did, okay? And then in the event that money's been handed out and misappropriated, which in this case over the last 70 years, it has been. Because there's no paper trail for the money. That's clear. There's some ledger entries, there's some of this. But we're missing Susan Howard's poor fund. It's gone. It was here in 77, but it's gone. And I have the information on it, and it says you're only supposed to take from the interest of that. But that fund somehow disappeared. Now, she gave some money to the library, too, the Susan Howard Library Fund. So there's a fund over there with that. And I'm wondering if they incorporated all the money into that. I'm not sure about that. And I don't think they are either. But this is why these things need to be investigated by professionals, not investigated by us. So just so everybody knows, this can land us in the Attorney General's office, who may be able to, who would consider or could consider intervening for mismanagement. And we have a disbursement that was a loan that was never followed up on, and this will segue into our bylaw from here. But there was money that was not followed up on, that was a loan that still hasn't been recovered. Okay, there was a disbursement in 2008 from the Worthy Poor Fund, and it was dispersed directly to the individual. That's rife with abuse. No, it gets dispersed to the person who is managing or maintaining, whether it's a nonprofit, it's the state, it's your landlord, it's your mortgage company, things like that. So that was just written, oh, we just wrote a check to him. Oh, yeah, you need that money for that? Oh, here you go. Do you know what I mean? And there were times in the 70s, Ms. Padula, you know, there's money that was given out for the payment of a mortgage for a mother with 5 kids who can't find her husband, he disappeared. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that's in there. I saw it. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. She gave out the most money from the record all through the 70s. People were, money was coming in, money was going, it was going out. People were getting help. 77, 78, I mean, we were in a recession back then too, and things were difficult. The public welfare system wasn't up to par where it is today. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of rife of situations with abuse and, you know, mismanagement of those kind of money. So yeah, so I mean, I saw a lot of stuff, and it has done a lot of people good, but not in the last 60 or so years, I can tell you that. That's a problem. That's what I saw. And I saw that when I was running for cemetery commissioner. And I said, I'll run for the commissioner, but I'll write in for this. Because I know what it's like to be poor and not have money. I wish I had an option to ask somebody for a little bit of help in the community I lived in. Do you know what I mean? But that wasn't there. Lunenburg's best kept secret, trust fund. Sorry.
Yeah, I bet if you did a poll, how many people are aware there's a trust fund that you can apply?
None of them until we came here.
Pretty low percentage.
None of them until we came here.
I would guess, yeah.
So we want to get it fixed, and we're legally obligated. So the town's legally obligated as well. So the ask for this money shouldn't really be an ask. It should actually be an executive direction of the town manager to get it done. I'm just saying, you know, at least be looked at in that fashion. You know what I mean, as an option. And have it accomplished thoroughly by a professional, not by us. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, you hire pro for a reason. So that will segue me into the bylaw. So we presented the bylaw. We're not presenting that to the Finance Committee. I know it's written on the agenda as such. The bylaw is not being submitted because it doesn't cost anything. There was a question with regard to the bylaw itself about whether or not that would be changing or altering the context or language of the charter based on Mass General laws. The answer to that was no. And I forwarded off information to the attorney on that part as well. And the policy that we established in the procedures for delegating trust duties or powers in this, in administering these trust funds were created for the benefit of the town and its inhabitants, which apply to all trust funds unless a donor instrument provides otherwise, which is rooted in Mass General laws, places the management of all trust funds with the commission, and accordingly, under Chapter 203E, Section 807. Why we keep going back there for the legal framework of what we're supposed to do and the accountability. And just so folks know, if we don't do it the way it's said to do, we become personally responsible even though we're elected according to those statutes. That's scary. Better do it right, Richard. You know, put you in jail or something. It's not a joke, but
I know. Yeah.
it's, I know you're not laughing at that. I mean, I'm laughing too, but it's like, it says right in there, the trustees become fiduciarily responsible, which means anybody that sits on this board hands out money like in 2017 without recouping it back, they can be held financially responsible for that money, Because what didn't they put in place? What we're asking for that bylaw is a protection in place in an emergency temporarily, right? To allow the distribution or collection of funds based on an application given. No other management here. Not changing policy, not changing rules, not changing function, staying within our framework for a term that is determined by whether or not a quorum exists for this board. A trustee, 807, Section 807, 203E. A trustee may delegate duties and powers if prudent and must use reasonable care, skill, and caution in selecting an agent. Well, we're selecting the select board. I think we can say out of 5 people, even if they have 1 bad or 2 bad eggs, there's 3 good eggs in every basket. Do you see my point? Just saying, if you want to look at it like a devil's advocate, Must take caution in selecting an agent, setting the scope, terms, and periodically reviewing the agent's actions. The agent owes a duty of reasonable care, and a trustee who complies with 807A, is not liable for the agent's action. Acceptance of a delegation submits the agent to the Massachusetts court jurisdiction, whatever jurisdiction that it's under, which means that, whatever goes on gets subjected to, obviously, Worcester Court, or whatever the court of the local jurisdiction is a violation or anything like that. But for the most part, the agent becomes a person of reasonable care because we've given it to them. The reason why we put a bylaw is so it stays. Not so it sits in a policy that nobody ever gets a chance to read because it's not a forward-facing rule like a charter or a bylaw. That's a forward-facing rule. That somebody wants to know the rules of town, they go to the bylaw. They go to the charter for the operational aspect of it. They go to the bylaw to find out a rule. This puts it forward-facing, which somebody would say, hey, we haven't had a trust fund commission in a while. Did you know that? This town's already experienced that. In 1913, trust funds have been around since the Township Act in 1692. So It's never, and it's been, you know, kept since then. It's never left our government, a local government structure. So that being said, we've moved along up until 1913, and they redid in 1919, you know, they did all sorts of changes in laws and rules and stuff, right? But the Trust Fund Commission, you know, like in 1913 said that, you know, the trust fund handles the workers' compensation fund, which, you know, that's still under investigation, as is our scholarships, still under investigation, which is good for us to talk about too. Mylene's, I contacted her, she's sending a letter to Miss Fortuna, because she was supposed to get back with me after my meeting with Tony. She was supposed to get back with me. So, she did. So, I followed up, but there's no answer. You know, falling on deaf ears. So, we have a concern if they're using the town's EIN number on their funds that they have, because that comes under the authority of the treasurer. That does not come under the authority of the school. So the school has no business carrying the town's EIN number on anything. You know what I mean? So there's a problem with that if that's being done. So that has to be looked at too. So in any case, hopefully, Ms. Fortuna, you hear me? Can you get back to me? I'm sure you got back to your lawyer. This is going back to October of last year. We'd like to hear what your attorney said. We'd like to see the declarations of all those funds. They just put out their community scholarship funds, a whole list. You know, I'd like to see the declarations. There's a difference between a gift and a trust. It doesn't have to have it in the language. I mean, it's in the language. It's not in the name.
The title, right.
So I want to know. I want to see it. I want to read it. Maybe we'll have to do more and get more money for investigation of that. Because that would be complying with the law that we're forced to on this. Yep. It's called Clean House. Let's get in order, folks. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with being ordered. So in any case, we have the ability to be able to delegate the direction. So do we technically need a bylaw? Yes, we do. Can we delegate it to them? Yeah, but what if they don't accept it?
Right.
See what I'm saying? So we need the bylaw to make sure that this is handled when there's not a board. And it's in the people's best interest, and I'm telling you, it's in your best interest to vote yes on the bylaw and to call your selectmen and say, that bylaw is necessary so that this board doesn't die. We have a hard enough problem with volunteers in town, which everybody knows caucus was Monday, and about 28 people showed up, I think, out of 13,500 people in town. I think we have 38, 28, I don't know, it's small.
9,000 voters?
Yeah, 9,000 voters.
Roughly.
Yeah. I mean, it's so bad, people are nominating themselves to get on the ballot. Which I'm okay with that. Adam Burney did it. Adam Burney goes, I nominate myself for planning board. It was like right on Adam. Do you know, well, he's good. He's a good land use director. I like that. You know, so and he, you know, you can do that. And he did it. And that's, you know, that's good. Because basically he wanted to see what the forward facing is of what the people want, you know, at election time, you know. So, you know, it was good. It was good. But yeah, so that's basically it. I recommend that you vote for the passing of the bylaw. It's going to be beneficial to pass this off. Just the application, just the issuing of money. Nothing, no changes, no alterations unless there's elected officials here, you know, for any policy changes and things like that. It's not handing control over, it's handing temporary distribution authority. Temporary, you know, but at least the money's going to be able to be used and people can apply for it to be able to get what they need for help. So, and the town can use, we have a sidewalk fund within a mile of town hall, you know, you need $200 for trash cans. There you go. Because that's what it says right here in the declaration.
Yep.
$200, no more than 200 or something like that you can spend. It says $5,000 is a memorial to John and Mary Caldwell. The interest from said sum at 4%, $200 a year to be spent on the public grounds and sidewalks within 1 mile of the center. 4%. There you go. We just have to write it clearer. So that's in there. See, this is what I mean. This is not a document. This comes from a 1931 vote in Article 16, approved by the Finance Committee in 1931. And then it says here, March 2nd, 1931 is what this is typed on and stamped, which means that it's an official document, right? Well, this isn't written down on anything. It's right here. So this is not legal because it's legal by its language, but it's not legal by, here, we have one piece of paper which outlines the parameters of the trust. Hence why we need money, because we have to do stuff like this. Okay, this isn't stuff for us to write. And then this needs to be investigated, because I have letters here from Ms. Padula talking about Susan Howard, 1902. I have a record on excerpt from her will with regard to a bequest for the worthy poor of the town, which was first deposited in April 1904. That is not Nathaniel Day's worthy poor fund that we have, unless somehow they got mixed in together or somebody didn't understand something. I don't know. We don't know. And that means, where is Susan Howard's worthy poor fund? There was an original deposit book on the $500 library bequest from Susan Howard, February 27, 1917. However, that wasn't Susan Howard. That may have been, and this is from the library manager at the time in 72, Jean Tenander. So, written to her from Miss Padula. Right here. But this is not a legal document. It's not, it's like, oh, I think, no. Again, I'm going to say it, 203E, 203C. This is why we have what we have, and we want your support for 40 hours worth of investigation. We have a gazebo fund. There is no declaration anywhere, but we have the fund. Where is it? Like I said, the gazebo's in the guy's yard on the corner of Oak Ave and Main Street. Just drive around the corner, look to your right, you'll see the big, huge, giant green gazebo. That's the one that was in the center of town. And then they built that little tiny thing. That thing was like, it looks very Victorian. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like that design a little better, to be honest with you. But I like old stuff, so. So, that's where we're at with that. We're going to ask for your support on both of those. I would like a yes vote. This commission would like a yes vote from everybody at town meeting on the bylaw to delegate temporarily authority, and on the investigation resources, which the town manager obviously would be the steward over that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't have the control of the money, because that would be a legal executive function that the town manager would have to say, hey, Adam, I have this kind of fund for you to do investigations on these issues, and these are the issues that I got from the commission. Oh, okay. That's an executive function. That's not like we're asking for the money so we have it and we'll write the check. No. We wanted to comply with 807. We wanted to comply with 206 rather than 203E. That's what we wanted to comply with. So, that's basically updates on that. Any questions that you have on any of that? Did you happen to see the presentation? Or?
No, I did not.
No, good for you.
Honestly.
Yeah, I know what year it is for you, Mr. Accountant. He's like, I have my head in spreadsheets.
Tax and audit requests.
Huh?
Tax and audit.
Oh, yeah, of course. And when you have a big company, everybody's auditing you. When you get government contracts, the world is auditing you. That's crazy. All right. So, Amend eligibility criteria for 2 Legion funds to align with American Legion eligibility requirements in a written operating policy. Okay. So, I would like to put a vote on the floor if you go to the drive file, if you don't mind, Richard. And I would like to add into our operating policy, where is it? There's a declaration, here it is, policy. All right. It is called, I put it out here, hold on. No, that's not it.
What folder is it under?
It is,
Policy, rules, regulations?
yeah. Okay, so what I want to do is, if you open up the verification policy,
Yep.
right? I want to add that into, as an appendix to this particular fund. I would like to have a discussion with you on adding an appendix. We have already discussed this, and I had written it up in a policy, and I want to go.
Yeah, last meeting we discussed.
Yeah, and this one here, this is the policy that we had discussed from our meeting with a standardized verification checklist attached to it to determine that all these items are met for eligibility, right? What I'd like to do is that I would like to, I would just like to put, I want to put a vote to the floor. This is what's difficult. I want to put a vote to the floor when it comes to military eligibility or disqualification. Yeah, see, this is why I wanted to talk to you about this at the same time, is because I wanted to put a vote to the floor that says, these eligibility rules, you know what I mean, for this fund is the direction, and here's the checklist to determine. Do you know what I mean? On each fund, and I can't do that. And that's why I said, I want to hold a vote. I do.
Okay.
And I want to hold a vote on, if you open up the file, it says, 1 is revised department constitution. Did you see that? It's in the, sorry,
when I revised
it's in the trust fund policy rules. It should be the most recent one.
Yep.
Right? If you open that up, so that's the Legion Fund. That's the Legion Constitution. And if you go down to Article 4, it says eligibility.
Yep.
It says, Section 1, an individual is eligible for membership in the American Legion only if the individual, 1, has served in the armed forces of, A, the United States at any time during, I, the period of April 6, 1917 through November 11, 1918, or II, 2.
Appropriate, right?
Yeah, exactly. Any time after December 7, 1941. And I'm doing this, Selectman Layton said to me, well, it says right here on Google. And I said, I know, I have to get an official email from the Legion of their rules. And I got this from the Massachusetts Legion, is where I got this. And I have the email, so it is on public record, that the information was received from the Legion. I didn't Google it and go, here it is. Do you know what I mean? So I explained that to him. I respected that. But I'm just saying is, I said, I can't say, I'm not in disagreement with what you're trying to say, what you might have found, but I can't speak to that until I have the legal document. Now I have the legal document. So now I'm speaking to it. So anytime after December 7th, 1941, or B, a government associated with the United States government during a period of time referred to in subsection A, okay, of this section, and was a citizen of the United States when the individual entered service. And 2, was honorably discharged or separated from that service or continues to serve honorably during or after that period of time, provided, however, that such service shall have been terminated by honorable discharge or honorable separation, or continued honorably during or after any of said periods. Provided further that no person shall be entitled to membership who, being in such service during any of said periods, refused on conscientious, political, or other ground to subject themselves to military discipline, okay, or unqualified service. That's regarding the I'm running to Canada deal.
Right.
Draft dodging and stuff like that. Meaning, you know, just because maybe the United States had a bill that they passed that they forgave people that left and let them come back. I don't know. I don't know if one exists, but let's continue. It says, there shall be no form of class of membership except an active membership, and dues shall be paid annually for life, Section 2. Okay? This is all under eligibility. Section 3. No person may be a member at any one time of more than one post. See, this isn't as simple as you thought. Oh, it's just anybody after 1941. That's what I was trying to say. No, there's a whole section here. Okay? No person may be a member of it at any one time of more than one post. No person who has been expelled from the Legion by a post, and such expulsion reported by the Department of the National Headquarters within 30 days shall be admitted to membership in another post without the consent of the expelling post, except that where such consent has been asked for and denied by such post, such person may then appeal to the Executive Committee of the Department of the expelling post for permission to be admitted to membership in another post, and shall be ineligible for membership until such permission is granted. Whoa.
Do a flow chart on that.
Boy, imagine that. So now, right, it changes, doesn't it? It says, have to have eligibility in the American Legion. It says it right in the Declaration of Trust from 2013. So eligibility would mean now I have to verify if you've ever been expelled from the American Legion, and I have to add that onto there, even though it says or Lunenburg veterans. So the qualification is eligibility to be a Legion member, okay?
Don't have to have been one, though.
Correct. Doesn't mean you have to be one, but guess what? Now I have to give you an American Legion application, and I have to verify that you can join. How cumbersome does that make it? If we go by that, well, what's the requirement for people to be able to get this money? Oh, they have to have eligibility. They have to be eligible for the Legion. Like I told Selectman Layton, I said, I need the legal document. I can't make the decision based on just a Google search that's going to give me like some random time. Well, this document obviously says that if somebody's been expelled from a post, but they're a veteran, they could have an honorable discharge, but the post expelled them. Now I have to find out if they've ever belonged to an American Legion post at any time. I have to do that work as part of the application process. So that doesn't work.
Who would know that?
You call the American Legion with the person's name, his DD-214 number, to see if they have ever registered him as a member. Now, they might say, well, how do you do that? So who do I have to get that from? I'm going to have to go to Michelle Durkee, the veterans officer here in town. I'm going to say, Michelle, I need you to go find this information out and put that work on Michelle to get that information to me, because that fits the criteria of eligibility. We have a problem. It needs to be written less cumbersome and clearer of donor intent. Not just, well, it says all Lunenburg veterans. Right, but they must be eligible. Well, there's something in here that's your eligibility is, I have to know if you've ever been expelled. How am I going to find that out? Are you going to think the president's going to be honest with me and say, oh, no, I've never applied there before, you'll never find out?
Yeah.
Well, I have to look, right, because that's the eligibility requirements. And this is what I mean, folks. This is what I'm saying to you, is that the investigation stuff needs to be done. Cypre filing, particularly for that fund, the American Legion Fund, in 2013, must absolutely be done. Because if we're going to go by their eligibility standards, there's more work on this board, which is going to put more work on the person who has the care and control of the DD 214. And that's not right for Michelle Durkee to have to be engaged, okay, in the power and duty and direction of this board. And that's why when things are written and there's management that needs to be done, it needs to be done, okay? And not just come in here and try to hand out money. And that's what's been going on with this commission for years, decades, not just a few years, decades. And most of the money has never been handed out since Ms. Padula was here, from what I see in the record. And I have digital record back to 2005. And only once in 2008, once in 2017, both out of the Worthy Poor Fund. So, and look here. So, part of eligibility says that you have to have certain qualifications. There's membership qualifications in here. So, in order to be qualified to be a member, okay, that's part of eligibility. Okay? No person shall be eligible for membership unless such person possesses all the eligibility qualifications and none of the eligibility disqualifications as stated in Article 4 of this Constitution. See where we went to? Right? It's a rabbit hole. Okay? Each post shall be the judge of the qualifications of its members, provided such members are eligible for membership in the American Legion. That means every post has its own rules. It's rabbit hole. Am I clear? The words American Legion shall not be used on any membership cards whatsoever, except those issued by the national organization to active members of the American Legion. Uh-oh. That may pose a problem with the way that the American Legion donation is written. Now, just so everybody knows, we have an American Legion Poor Fund. We have absolutely no documentation on where that came from. None. We don't have a declaration. We don't have nothing. All we have is this one from 2013, which was an additional fund that was created. So, that being said, here's the rabbit hole. This is what the investigation is for, and this is why we really need you to support us with our request for 40 hours in the beginning, regardless of what it takes. It's a legal duty that we have, that the town owes, okay, to these funds, that they can't take the money out of the funds themselves to be able to do it. And that was what was tossed around that the town manager and I were talking about at the select board, is that, no, that 14,000 I wrote in that email was the amount of money in the fund may or may not be enough money to be able to cover the cost of Cypre filings and investigations. And I misinterpret that as, oh, it's probably about $14,000 or $15,000 to do this kind of work. I didn't correlate the two right away. But then I looked at it and I said, well, 40 hours is better than nothing to at least get something done on what needs to be done and get moving forward. Because regardless of whether or not, you know, people approve of the money, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? The town manager should be spending the money anyways.
So 14,000 should cover multiple funds.
Well,
You know, that's not just going to
no,
address the one.
no, and that's how it's written. That we showed an example of two, but we have more and we're missing one. We're missing Susan Howard's fund. So all that needs investigation, okay? And, you know, people skilled and trained in this, they have a system together about who to call, who to look for, what to look. They have that knowledge. The lawyer does not have that. He's even said that. He said that we hire a firm to do that, that there's people that do that, that you have to hire, you know? So I don't know what they charge. I know the lawyer said that a lot of that stuff is charged on an hourly basis, and I think those kind of fees are somewhere around $350 an hour. That basically puts $350 into $14,000 and change that we're asking for. is about 40 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
We have to start somewhere, folks, because, this money, can go to the community, okay? I'll just give you an example. So sidewalk fund, let's just say that, JM Sidewalk Fund, $26,000. What do you think you could do with $26,000 within a mile of town hall for your sidewalks? What do you think?
If it's 4%, a lot more than $200, right?
Yeah. So there's something, town trash barrels, something,
Yeah.
right? Around the common, it's within a mile. That goes all the way down to Marshall Park, about a mile that way.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's there. It's there. So, okay. But that's why I want to put a vote. But I can't put a vote. That's why I started out with, I want to put a vote. Just so that I can say, but I can't put a vote. How can I put a vote on something? Obviously, this is the eligibility criteria. And that means that money's going to sit there. Because all this requires a whole ton of work without rewriting the program. And just so you know, that particular fund, the Post 283 fund has $10,110 in it. So, and I think that's giving out 10% annually. Once it gets up over $100,000, they said that you can start taking out of the principal at discretion or whatever, I think it says. So that's like $1,000. I don't have it, I don't have it I don't want to start searching for stuff because I want to get things done. Here it is. Here, I'll tell you. Let me just read it. I'll read it real quick. It's good. We got time. The American Legion Post 283, this is November 7, 2013, wishes to establish a trust fund with the town of Lunenburg with the following conditions. Lunenburg Trust Fund Commission to be the dispensing agency for this trust fund. All funds must be used for the benefit of current or past members of American Legion, Post 283, or Lunenburg resident veterans. Veterans must be eligible for membership in the American Legion. There you go. So if you're a resident, you have to show eligibility, which means you got to go and fill out an application and prove your eligibility or disprove your eligibility. Rabbit hole. I try to show that to you. They must be residents of the town of Lunenburg for a minimum of 3 years. Other disbursements may be made for qualified programs within the town of Lunenburg that would benefit or enhance veteran services or programs such as special veterans celebratory functions. Funds in the amount of up to $350 per any 1 year may be dispersed if requested. Should the fund reach an amount in excess of $25,000, that's it. Any amount in excess can be used for veterans' benefits. Thereafter, the maximum disbursement for any 1 year can be 75% of that year's interest. The intent for this is to ensure that funds continue to grow so as to allow a substantial amount can be issued to veterans. American Legion eligibility can be determined by the Town of Lunenburg Veteran Service Officer. The Town of Lunenburg residents can be determined by the town clerk. Signatures of Post 283 members as follows: Arnie Rill, Robert Wilhock, Fred Cuddy, and Ernie Sund. And this was done around the time that Ernie Sund was on the Trust Fund Commission. Just so you know. So that being said, that's the parameters. There you go. The Veteran Service Officer is not the one who determines your eligibility. I've been on the phone for the last year with the American Legion, you know what I mean, and military officio with regard to military records and access, and everything points back to Michelle on record access and all this other stuff, to be able to get that. But the people have to bring them to us. They have to bring their physical DD-214 to us, and then we have to verify it with her. She doesn't provide us with that. Like, this is not part of Michelle Durkee's duty.
Right.
Is to administer the trust by providing the documentation. No.
She can more confirm.
She's only confirmation, the person has to bring it to us. And we make a determination based on what we read, okay, on their DD 214 before we verify it. And we have an application process in place for that. This is what they didn't have before. And this is why I said, let's get it fixed, folks. Needs to be fixed. So, all right. So, there's that. Okay. But what I'd like to do is this is the Lunenburg Board of Trust Fund Commission's comprehensive policy on verification of citizenship and residency. Did you have a chance to review that? I know we discussed it last week and stuff.
Yes.
And there's a checklist attached to it to be able to determine what kind of documentation is needed. We did make the change in this. It says that the individual requesting trust fund assistance is the application. There's a primary document, secondary document, a residency document. Applicants must prove one primary citizen document or two acceptable secondaries. U.S. passport or passport card, certified U.S. birth certificate, a certificate of naturalization, certificate of citizenship, consular report of birth abroad, federally recognized tribal enrollment documentation. Delayed birth certificate, letter of no record, early public records, school, medical, baptismal, notarized affidavits from U.S. citizens with direct knowledge. Okay? So that's citizenship verification. Residency verification, applicants must provide one document from List A and two from List B. A mass driver's license or state ID with a Lunenburg address. Voter registration listing Lunenburg precinct. Property tax bill. Mortgage statement or deed. Government benefits correspondent. VA, DTA, SSA. Court or jury summons. A utility bill. Lease or rental agreement. A bank statement. Homeowners and renters insurance declaration page. And U.S. Postal Service change of address confirmation. So application submission, including required verification form and supporting documents. So you need one of the first section and two of the second section to determine whether or not you're a citizen and a resident. The board administers the trust funds without discrimination based on protected classes under state and federal law. This policy may be amended by a majority vote of the board at a posted public meeting. And then there's a checklist to go over all that, what verification, what so forth. And again, I did ask Kara if she would post this, some of our documents online. They've been kind of busy. They've had some computer stuff going on. They're doing stuff. So it hasn't gotten there yet.
I think this is a real important addition to the process.
Yep.
Fully support making this part of the application.
The part of the process and the policy.
Yeah, part of the process.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion to that?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we approve the Lunenburg Board of Trust Fund Commissioners' policy on verification of U.S. citizenship and municipal residency.
I second the motion.
Favor?
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. I know. It's kind of good when, the chairman and vice chairman at the table, right? They both do the same job. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome, Richard. Thank you. All right, good. So that's done. All these documentations will go up online. They'll get there. We'll get there. Okay? All right. So unfortunately, we won't be able to amend that until we investigate and we have cypre filing. Richard, on number 2. Can't amend eligibility criteria for Legion funds to align with the American Legion eligibility requirements in the written operating policy. Well, we can amend it, but it's not feasible. it's not workable in its current format.
Yeah.
So I'll open that for discussion. How do you want to handle that? We can vote the amendment to include those two sections, or we can take a vote of no confidence that it's not going to get addressed properly. We can do one or the other. One's symbolic, one's an action.
Yeah. I mean, I feel we should table any action on those two sections until we...
Do you have confidence that it's going to get corrected?
I'm hoping within the framework, it can be wordsmithed to be compatible
Okay.
and conforming to the original intent.
No, I just think that it's just going to get ignored like it has been. That for some reason, right, it's too hard to do the simple thing because the town, executive, you know what I mean, sees it as different without the experience. And then the select board sees it as different without there's no experienced eyes here. And we're supposed to rely on them to decide, oh, I'm for this, right? When they don't have any experience to say they're for something or against something, but to look at the reality of it and who manages it and approve it. And to me, that's no confidence in them from the public communications that we just had with them. That they're saying they know something. Well, I just showed Brian, who was gracious enough to look it up while we were talking. Do you know what I mean? And I said, I know, Brian, I gotta look and see the legal. And now that I found the legal direction, it's cumbersome. It's a rabbit hole. It's work that is not necessary to be able to make determinations on something. And then the legal parameter, of which I mentioned also to them, that look, there's legal requirements that we're obligated to, that we're not allowed to do, okay, without having the experience or expertise based under that law. It says we must be prudent with who makes the decision. So is it prudent for us, for them, to be able to make a decision against something we're proposing? Is it prudent for us to do that? Do they have experience? Are they skilled professionals? Would we hand this to them to make a decision based on our fiduciary duty? That's my question of no confidence. That's my question of no confidence.
Yeah.
Discussion?
Yeah.
It's not an insult. It's not an insult. It's just saying that
It's a bit of a
we have
paradox,
people
though.
trying to make decisions that have no authority or skill to make decisions. It's like, talking heads. That's it.
Yeah.
Watching Chuck Schumer. Sorry. It drives me crazy. He comes up with some great stuff, though. He's good. He's an excellent. He's an excellent politician. I'm sorry. I mean, not my guy, but he's excellent. He's got it. He's got it. I can appreciate that. That takes years of practice. So I don't know. So I mean, are you up for something like that, or how do you feel with the evidence that's presented and the information is? Why is it that they have to be the ones to say, I approve, when they're not skilled or trained? That's my problem. They're good. The finance committee, right, can talk about money, but not about subject matter.
Yeah.
They can approve money. The select board and the town manager can't agree or disagree. I mean, I know she's separate. Do you know what I'm saying, from the select board? But you know what I'm saying? They can't disagree with something on information. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not trained. Because I'm saying we're not trained. You're not trained. This money needs to be allocated to hire trained people to get to the bottom answer. And you want to say that, I'm not going to vote for this because why? See?
I mean, I can understand some apprehension, because if you look at the cost of investigating and getting these things all sorted out, it's a pretty significant proportion of the total value.
It is.
Yeah, but
It most certainly is, but when the town
I know.
took the responsibility, ready?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do what's proportional, and this is what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, what's proportional, and this is their argument. Well, it's not proportional to what's in there. Okay, so we sit on this money, we don't help people, and we don't give this money out, right, to some extent, or we give it out haphazardly like we've been, okay? All right? Which is great. I'll come down, give me a check. Can I have a check? You go get all the information about the Legion stuff. I will bring a check. I'll bring you paperwork. I'll bring all sorts of paperwork. I have a computer and a printer. I'll show up with 5,000 pounds of paperwork. Here I am, sir. I want some help. Yeah, this is all accurate. I got this from the government. Yeah, what, on your computer? Do you see my point? So with no structure, that's what you get. So we're structuring, okay? And we're saying that the town is 100% responsible for the management by the laws that I cited, 206, 203E, okay? They're responsible. They're responsible, okay? And we have an obligation here, okay, to make them responsible. And that's my point, okay? Where at the meeting that we had, we were splitting hairs about, well, what did the language say? Here we are, right? 6, 7 people, right? No one qualified. All guessing what this may mean, or that may mean, or what this is, or what that is, and, oh, well, look, there's the eligibility, and, oh, yeah, let's add that in, and, right, look at us, right? We look like Keystone Cops, you know what I mean? Remember those things, right, back in the 40s, right, wasn't it, running around? You know, with the ladders and stuff, putting them up to, and the person was like pushing the ladder, you know what I mean? Every time the fireman tried to push the ladder, you know what I mean? That's what was going on. Unqualified people trying to make decisions about stuff that should be handled by qualified people.
yeah, I mean, it's sort of like we accepted the responsibility to maintain essentially these funds back. Could be, obviously these weren't the people who did it. Because this was 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago.
I can tell you this, I look back through the ledger,
Yeah.
I don't see this much money for management written on any of the past ledgers, handwritten from the 50s and the 60s.
The can's been kicked down the road for.
What I'm saying is, you can't use it for management. The town manages it.
Right.
So the town's responsible for the money. Why should we even be asking? The town manager should just be saying, that has to be addressed, right? And step up to the plate and just say, that has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed not by me and my decision, or my attorney who has admitted that he doesn't have the experience and knowledge, they hire that out to get the information, to gather the information, to put it together. And here we are splitting hairs over, what does this fund say and what does that fund say? That's not open to interpretation. It needs to be a clear line of donor intent and function, okay, in order for it to be able to meet what's needed. If somebody comes in and hands us something that's written in a will, okay, it has to be done exactly the way the donor wanted it to be done. Not just say, oh, well, we don't have to do that because the post ain't here anymore. We have to do this. No, you need to change the document. No, you can't just go, oh, well, we'll just use that part of the document. The rest of it doesn't mean anything. Do you see my point? That's why we're all unqualified. We're all unqualified. Why? Because somebody's going to disagree with me. And then somebody's going to disagree with you. And then somebody's going to disagree with the town manager, the lawyer, right? When you have a table full of unagreeable situations, you bring in an expert, right? And everybody shuts up and goes, what do you say? And that's my point. None of us have it. But we all want to talk about it.
Right, but this has never come up in the past
I wonder why.
decades,
I wonder why.
because it's just, like I said, the can's been just kicked down.
Correct.
And I'm sure people have noticed that, hey, based on the way that these declarations
So
are,
we stay with more of the
we
same?
can't, no, I'm just saying, but that's.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying to you, we
path of-
stay with more of
path
the same.
Path of least resistance, right?
No, it's easy,
Well, let's say path of least resistance,
Yeah.
it's easy to ignore.
correct.
In the greater scheme of things, it's not a high priority for the town, probably. Right, it's not a high priority for the select board.
Wow.
Make sure that we.
That's pretty dangerous to say.
We
So,
housekeep these things.
so Mr. Sund and all those people at the Legion are low priority. Let's say this, just let's say this. Hold on.
I'm not saying
I
that's
know,
true, but,
John and Marie Howard, Nathaniel Day, they're not here, so they're low priority. Even though they were, residents or people connected to Lunenburg, right? So as soon as you're dead, you become irrelevant. Even though you left something because you wanted to be recognized.
De facto.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insulting, actually. But that's why we're fixing it. So that these people's names do go back in lights and that the money does start getting distributed according to their wishes.
Right. And it's a, let's say, painful pill to have to take to basically get things sorted out where they have to be
Yeah.
sorted out.
I'm getting grayer by the day with all this paperwork.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like I said, is that, we don't have to hold a vote either way.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is that, to me, there's no confidence in any of us. That's the no confidence vote. It's not just the select board and the town manager. What kind of confidence do we have to be able to make that legal adjustment?
I wouldn't feel comfortable
No.
and.
It wouldn't be prudent, right? That's the key word. Wouldn't be prudent.
I'm not versed in all the MGL statutes and
It's crazy.
laws.
That takes you down a rabbit hole, too. That's why they have shepherd's keys. So you don't go down a rabbit hole. You can actually isolate the issue. Do you know what I mean? But,
Where they have qualified experts.
correct. Correct. And if you have the lawyer saying he's not an expert, and you have all the rest of us in town elected and executives saying, we don't have all the answers, then, the only solution to that is you assumed responsibility over this, right? This isn't something you should be picking and choosing. This goes to help veterans and poor people. This goes to help sidewalks that everybody uses. This goes to the gazebo that everybody uses, okay? This goes to the people. This is the people's money that is free and clear to be used for their benefit and the benefit of the town. You don't cut the time out of that. You cut the time out of handing the school another $500,000 or $2 million, if you want. Why? Because you had your money. That's where that comes in. Just my thoughts. But like I said, we don't need a vote.
No, I mean, is the time of the essence in this situation? Or
Absolutely.
do I have a little bit of time for the next meeting to kind of do some,
Well, no, because we have to have some sort of consensus decision on what's going to go on, because town meeting's going to come up and votes are going to be had. Do you know what I mean, on things? And if you have a select board who's going, I don't support this because, it's like, what are you talking about? Ready? Oh, I don't support the bylaw because, what are you talking about? This board's had a quorum problem and you want to vote against a bylaw to fix the quorum problem? Really? Right? $15,000 for 40 hours worth of work? No, you don't know how much time it is, but it's going to take, that money's going to be used towards all of them, all right? And if it costs a little bit more, right, you get informed by town manager. This is going to cost a little bit more to get done, but this is what we were able to accomplish thus far. I think people are just looking at it like, oh my God, it's daunting. $15,000, I'll go to the bank tomorrow, I'll get a loan. Yeah, $15,000, thank you. Yes, could I have a personal loan, please? Yeah, 13%? Yeah, that's better than a credit card. Thank you. Come on. You could even, the interest that we gained on $29 million this year, got to be a little bit there.
pretty
you could
close to that.
squeeze over here from the general fund. Just my thoughts.
Well, I mean, so your motion pertains specifically to one of the both bylaws.
Oh, yeah, I want the bylaw and the warrant article, specifically because that's the prudent thing to do. The town has an obligation and a duty and a responsibility, and it's not something you skirt when all of this money goes to benefit a resident. This is not somebody asking you to pay taxes or anything like that. This is the town's responsibility that your tax money pays for, so that this money can be given out to people in need. People who are poor, veterans who are poor, veterans who have other needs, sidewalks and other amenities along a mile of town hall, okay? And, you know, and then the Worthy Poor Fund, which goes to poor houses and stuff like that, but we don't have those anymore, okay? But that's what we're talking about here.
So have there been any changes to the version that we reviewed at one of the previous meetings? We did review the language
Well,
last meeting. Are there any changes for what was presented at the last meeting? Did you change any of the?
no, you can't, whatever the language is, the language is. The only thing that's there is, like I said, is that, you know, like I said, I was laughing. Remember I told you in 1941, they said, oh yeah, we're going to organize a trust fund commission in Lunenburg, when they already had one. I thought it was funny. Sorry. I'm like, oh, why are you creating another one? You already had one, right? That was just like when we got in here, right? We had the assistant clerk over here trying to go, oh, we're going to run your meeting. How are you going to do that? Oh, is that the way it's done? Well, that's not. There's no rule of necessity there for you to intervene as a paid employee of the town, unelected. So,
I'm fine with making a motion to approve the bylaw for the lack of a quorum for the trust fund.
well, yeah, well, no, we already approved that to make the presentation.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that I'm saying to you is that everybody is claiming that they have some answers to be able to deny something with no qualification. That's my problem.
So
How can the select board
do
say
you want to make a motion to
that there's no confidence in any of us
make a
with lack of
statement?
experience?
to make a statement that the select board overestimates their abilities to?
And us. No, and us. It's a no confidence vote that any of us has the qualification to be able to execute, okay, this process, including that of the attorney, who's already said, this goes out to a specialty place. And,
So you're looking for a motion to acknowledge that the trust fund commission does not have the expertise to?
and neither does the select board.
Well, I don't know that, but I know that.
No, the law says right here it does. It says that it has to go to a qualified people, right? Qualified people, right? All right? And we can't give it to somebody unless they prove to us that they're qualified. Meaning that it has to go out to somebody who's qualified and skilled in doing cypre filings and investigations.
So is it a motion to,
It's a motion of no confidence that any of us has the qualification, any of us, to be able to execute a decision, yea or nay, right, against the bylaw.
so it's basically a motion to declare
Yes,
a lack of expertise?
Correct.
Or to make a clear determination?
yeah, that's called no confidence,
Yeah.
right? That we'll be able to accomplish it without outside money and investigation. That any of us, which means it dies. The money sits there. So the veterans lose. So the poor loses. All because we got to rely on the select board to go, we support this motion. Are you serious? You don't have the expertise to support the motion. You just have to support it because the town's responsible to it. That's the only acknowledgement they need to give. We're responsible for taking care of this. That's it. That's why I said, we're just clarifying a vote of no confidence
Okay.
on any of us being experts to be able to make determinations. But the town has a fiduciary responsibility when it accepted it to manage the funds so that the people get the money. And by relying on one board in their elected authority to say yay or nay to something doesn't work. Doesn't work because they don't have the skill or ability to be able to make those kind of decisions, and neither do we. So, would you like me to make it?
I'd like you to,
Okay. I would like to make a motion of no confidence that the Trust Fund Commission or the Select Board has any ability to make a determination of any matters with regard to the trust funds without proper professional investigation.
okay, I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously of no confidence in our board or that board to have the professional expertise necessary to be able to make a determination of whether or not this should move forward. All right, so, let's see, we're wrapping up. All right, so just to go quickly through the rest of it, we're going to have to put this off till next week. Overview of new research of funds documentation. We did some of that today. We did go over some of that. It's just a little bit more details. We'll do meeting minutes at the next meeting. You'll have, what, 2 more meeting minutes to go over?
Yeah, we have the 8th of January, the 29th of January, we'll have the 14th.
Yep.
And today.
Okay. And we talked about the website posting stuff and Kara being busy and Comcast being in town and mess. We still have vacancy? Come on over. We want you. Right? This is good stuff, folks. This is not boring, trust me. At least I try not to make it boring. I know there's a lot of writing and reading and researching, but believe me, it's very rewarding. You'll enjoy it. Goals of the commission, well, we're working on them. We're still in the process. We're just about done. Interns, not using them, obviously not skilled. Real estate investigations, ongoing. Review written risk management policy, ratify with corrections. We're going to finish that up probably next week. This meeting got by us a little bit. Rewrite the trusts with the AG's Office of Public Charity. We're not going to be doing that. That's on hold at the moment. Do we have any beneficiary comments? Nope. We have no beneficiaries here. Our upcoming meeting will be March 26, 2026. Richard?
Yes.
Is there any public comment? Any public comment from the board? There's no public in the building, and there's no public on Zoom. Is there any public comment from the commission here?
No. No
Okay.
comment.
No public comment from me. We have no public comment from a treasurer or finance director. We don't have anybody here at this point in time. It is 6:33, and I would be entertaining a motion from you, Richard, to adjourn tonight.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn at 6:33 PM.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye?
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here tonight. It is 6:33. The Trust Fund Commission here on March 12, 2026 is concluded. Thank you and have a great night.